It's the Chat Sports College Recruiting Show. Sweeney and Clemson secure the commitment of what many think is the top quarterback in the country in Trevor Lawrence, but is it enough for them to be #1 in the ACC? Mark Rick has some thoughts about that with a great class headlined by the sign of all-time Miami great Al Blades. Urban Meyer's in the middle of another great recruiting season, snatching 3 5-star recruits, including the top defensive tackle in the country, Tavon Vincent. How will the rest of the Big Ten shape up, and will the inclusion of Shea Patterson help Michigan's recruiting class? Don't look now, but Tom Herman has led Texas to the second best recruiting class in the country. What does Lincoln Riley and Oklahoma have up their sleeves to keep pace in the Big 12? Oregon currently has the top class in the Pac-12, but that was before Mario Cristobal took over. How will his inclusion affect their class? Nick Saban currently has Alabama sitting at #3 in the SEC, but don't count out the Crimson Tide making a run at some of the top uncommitted recruits left in the class. He has some work to do as Kirby Smart and Georgia have secured 2 of the top 5 players in the country, including top dual threat QB in the nation, Justin Fields. It's time to rank some conference recruiting classes here on CFP Daily. Let's get it.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hello and welcome into College Football Daily. I'm Lena Bond, and these two studs next to me are Harris Rubenstein and the college football insider James Yoder. And we're going to talk a little recruiting rankings today, guys. So we have the new early signing day next Wednesday the 20th alongside the original signing day on February 7th. So we're going to be breaking down conference by conference which teams are the top of the 2018 recruiting class.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a big change this year, Lena. I think you're going to see a lot of schools that normally would be stressing out that they were going to lose big-time recruits to schools like Alabama or Ohio State to come in last minute and take their guys. Have a little bit of breathing room over these next, the rest of this recruiting period, and they'll know next week if they're guys that they think maybe are on the fence to decommit, go somewhere else, guys who have given them their pledge prior, whether that they're really with them or not. So I think it's a good thing for the majority of the schools. I actually do think it hurts some of those top 5 or 6 teams that can make a play at the last few days of the year, make offers to guys that they hadn't made offers to if they miss in their top targets.
I'm also really interested to see what we see out of the new coaches. A lot of first-year and second-year coaches in the top half of our rankings in a lot of these conferences. So interesting to see which recruiters are the best. And also, mind you, for the Tennessee fans out there, Greg Schiano is currently ranked as one of the top 5 recruiters in the country. So I think they're going to be pretty upset to see what Ohio State has to offer this year.
Got a jam-packed show for you guys today, and we're doing something a little different. So we're going to have you, the fans, the audience, vote on which conference we talk about next. We are going to kick things off in the Pac-12, though. So let's start at our number 12 ranking in the Pac-12, and that's the Utah Utes, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really poor class from what they normally recruit with. I mean, Utah historically has recruited decent. I've never seen them at the absolute bottom of the Pac-12, at least since they've been in there. And so this is a big surprise for them. So one player that I particularly want to talk about is their quarterback commit. Now, this is a guy out of Southern California. It's 4-star pro-style quarterback, Jack Tuttle. So big arm. He's a huge recruit for them. He plays just north of San Diego. Not normally a player they would get a player in the top 150 in the country. And he doesn't necessarily match the style of offense that they like to run. He is a true pro-style quarterback, not somebody that is going to run the ball like they normally see at Utah.
Yes, Jack Tuttle, the only 4-star recruit right now committed to Utah. Moving on now, we have Oregon State coming in at number 11. They have 13 overall players committed. No 4-star or 5-star recruits, guys.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to worry about multiple bad seasons in a row, a coaching change, so I don't think you're going to see much improvement. Only 13 players committed here.
All right, next up on the list, we got Arizona State new coach Herm Edwards. Harris, what you got to say about this?
I wonder if he'll actually have any impact on this upcoming recruiting class. If I was a kid and I was interested in maybe trying to go to a different style of program, I think Arizona State would actually be a good option for them. I think the coordinators that they have there are still high quality, but you're also, you're going to Herm Edwards. As his agent said during his press conference, he's going to be creating some high quality human beings. So we'll see what Arizona State has to offer as we get closer to the actual signing.
Only one top 100 recruit for the Sun Devils. Up next, we have Stanford, a name we're kind of surprised to see so low on this list, gentlemen. What can you tell me about number 9 Stanford?
Well, it's a small class, that's for sure. And they've got the smallest recruiting net that they can cast in the entire country because of the academic restrictions. But one player to point out, Jack West, 4-star quarterback from actually the state of Alabama, I believe. I don't think that's actually true. At least he grew up in Alabama, from California. Looked at Alabama, looked at Auburn. It was ultimately the academic success of Stanford that really drew him. And we've seen this multiple years from David Shaw, being able to go all across the country and get players to come to Stanford no matter what state they grew up in.
He's definitely a high football IQ from Mr. Jack West. Really excited to see what he does for the Cardinal. Up next, we have the Arizona Wildcats coming in at number 8. So 21 players already committed to be an Arizona Wildcat. No 5-star or 4-star recruits yet.
No, but you do have Jamari Jordan, the dual-threat quarterback. And one thing interesting about him, I mean, currently Arizona has other dual-threat high-quality quarterback, Khalil Tate. So very clear they're trying to shift up the offense over there. I think he'll be a great addition to them when Khalil Tate ends up moving on. Whether that's the NFL, we don't know. The CFL might be a better place for Khalil Tate. But I think Arizona shifting the offense a little bit more towards the dual-threat QB might be a good idea for them competing in the Pac-12.
All right, guys, keep on voting on who you want to see next. We're going to keep it rolling here in the Pac-12. Up next, we have the Colorado Buffs coming in at number 7. Gentlemen, what do you guys think of this ranking?
Well, I mean, they've never recruited at the highest level. I think this is about as good as you're going to get most years from Colorado. So a few players to watch here as we talk about. We've got Dimitri Stanley, an athlete. He can play mostly offense or defense. I think we'll see him on the defensive side ultimately. Dylan Thomas and Daniel Arias, 2 players that are going to have to come in and contribute early on. Surprising, though, 3 top 100 recruits from them, which is not the norm for Colorado at all. So they've got some stuff going on, certainly not the upper half of the Pac-12 yet.
All right, speaking of the upper half, let's get into it. We have Washington State coming in at number 6. We have 1 4-star recruit here, pro-style quarterback Cameron Cooper. What a great name, Harris.
It is a great name, and he's also a great quarterback, though I do have to ask a question. I'm actually surprised to see Washington State so low, but I have to ask, is this maybe because Mike Leach has been connected to so many different schools over the past year, maybe that's pushed his recruiting down, or at least if you're a Washington State commit, do you really want to commit to a guy who has been included in so many rumors this season? I think it's made an impact.
I think that being at number 6 in the Pac-12 is about as high as you're ever going to expect. Look where their school is. It's tucked up there in the northwest part of the country. No one really gives them much attention, and you're not going to expect kids from all over the country to want to go there. So I think it's about as good as you're going to get if you're Washington State. You've got to develop talent. You've also got to run a scheme that gives you an advantage like he does.
All right, Washington State rounding up the top half of the Pac-12. At number 5, we have the California Golden Bears, always getting some solid recruiting coming out of Berkeley, highlighted by 4-star wide receiver Nico Remigio, which is another fantastic name there. What do you guys can tell me about this little wideout we got here?
Well, he's just as good as his name. If you actually go and watch a lot of his film, you'll see a guy who's quick off the line of scrimmage and also comes along with great hands. He's a great deep ball wide receiver as well. I think Cal is trying to rebuild a program that in the past couple years really hasn't been able to make a big impact at all in the Pac-12. But for the most part, I think, again, kind of like what we mentioned, California is a tough place to recruit, especially for a school like Cal with so much competition, USC, UCLA, to name a couple, Stanford as well. So I think Cal being number 5 fits, but Nico Remigio, love his name. I think that he'll be a nice player for Cal to build upon.
Up next, we have USC. They're coming in at number 4. 11 players committed so far to be a Trojan. 1 5-star recruit, 8 4-star recruits. That 5-star is a D tackle, obviously from Samoa. I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name. James, what can you tell me about this guy?
So Palaie Gaoteote, I think it's how you pronounce it.
Well done.
You know, we may be good buddies after I pronounce his name, but a player from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, one of the 2 or 3 powerhouse programs in all of high school football. Absolutely. They're churning out 3 to 5. This year they've got 6 like the top 150 players in the country. He's one of them. Surprisingly, their other really top player that we're going to talk about here in a moment went across town to UCLA. He's coming to USC. I think he's a starter from day one. He dominated throughout high school, and he's the kind of guy they're going to need to compete at the national level going forward.
All right, yeah, 9 recruits in the top 300 for the Trojans. Let's move on to number 3 on the list here, the crosstown rival, as you mentioned, James, the UCLA Bruins. Now the Bruins, they have a 4-star dual quarterback, Dorian Thompson, who was supposed to be the man, guys.
Now, so, let's talk about him. He committed to a completely different system under Jim Mora Jr., also out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Didn't start a high school game at quarterback until this season. So he literally started his first high school game 3.5 months ago in late August because Tate Martell, who's a freshman in Ohio State, started there for 4 straight years. So he played wide receiver up until this year. So in my opinion, the coaching change there, which doesn't look like he's going to switch, he's not going to flip from them. Chip Kelly is a good thing for him. They run a much better offense for him, and the style of play, the dual threat that he runs, over what Jim Mora was running last year. So I think it's a big change for him. He's going to be a perfect fit in that system.
I think UCLA also is going to be looking to gather a couple more recruits going forward. Chip Kelly has obviously already started recruiting, and I think that his impact on this program, if you were kind of on the fence between USC and maybe UCLA as well, let's be totally honest, you might flip to UCLA because of Chip Kelly. So I think that their ranking might actually go up if they get a couple more recruits going forward. But this is a very interesting UCLA class, and I think this year's class, and even more so next year's class, is going to make a massive impact on that program.
A lot of people want to be Bruins, guys. Up next, we have the Washington Huskies. 17 players committed. No 5-star, though, although they are ranked number 2, but a bunch of 4-star recruits coming in to Seattle.
Well, they've got 2 quarterbacks coming in, which is interesting for them. So they've got Jacob Sermon, who is a pro-style quarterback. I think he's one that's probably has the most likely chance of playing. Big, strong kid, solid frame, tremendous arm. They also pulled a former Oregon commit when Mark Helfrich got fired a couple years back, named Colson Yankoff. Great name. First 4-star in that state. He's out of Idaho since 2012. So they're going to have 2 highly rated kids, top 150 players in the country, coming in to kind of take over the reins at Washington and continue to lead them on to potential playoff spots.
All right, guys, rounding up the Pac-12, my alma mater, the Oregon Ducks. 19 players committed, no 5-star. I know they had a couple decommits since losing Willie Taggart to Florida State. 4-star recruits still committed to be a Duck, guys. Do you see Oregon keeping this #1 ranking moving forward?
Oh, I do. I mean, so it proves how well Willie Taggart recruited in just his 1 year there. Tyler Show from the state of Arizona, once a North Carolina commit, now is coming into Oregon. It looks like he's going to stick with the team with Oregon. He's not going to look around. Keeping Mario Cristobal and kind of that continuity of the staff, huge. I think he's going to hold on to this class. They've still got to get a couple more players to hold on to that position, but I think they have a great recruiting class. Gets Cristobal's reign onto a good start there at Oregon.
All right, guys, just want to remind you that we are presented by Game Time. Game Time is the #1 app on the App Store for all last-minute tickets. We're talking sporting events, concert tickets, you name it, they have it. They check their prices in real time to give us the best deals, guys. They say for up to 60% off, but I think we can all attest here at Chat Sports, it's almost like 90% off at
sometimes. Depends on the game. Yeah, I mean, it's great for college football. It's phenomenal this time of the year with the abundance of games. NHL hockey here in Dallas. We got the Mavs playing a lot, especially if your team's not doing as good as you hope they would do. Ticket prices plummet, and you're going to get the best prices through Game Time available for iPhone and Android.
$6 the Mavs game. $6.
So visit www.chatsports.com/tickets to download the Game Time app today. You, the fans, have spoken, so we're going to go to the Big Ten next. We're breaking down their top recruiting classes. So at number 14, we have Illinois. They have 15 players committed overall, 1 4-star recruit. Not much to talk about here, guys.
No, not really. I'm actually really surprised to see Kalen Avery still going to Illinois, but I think that might be the Lovie Smith effect. I know there really hasn't been any sort of Lovie Smith effect at all since he's gone there. One of the highest paid coaches in college football. The program ranking, or their record of the past couple years really hasn't showed it, but Calvin Angry, high-quality D tackle coming from the state of Texas. He's going to be a good impact on that defense, but you really haven't seen that Lovie Smith impact quite yet on this program. Will we ever see it? I think that's the big question. I'm not convinced at all.
All right, we're going to move on to the Cornhuskers now. They come in at number 13. No 5-star recruits, guys. 5 4-star, just 2 in the top 300. Not a very strong class.
But they nailed this right here. Adrian Martinez, a Tennessee commit, out of the state of California, Fresno. Scott Frost came in, made this guy his #1 target, flipped him just in the past 24 hours. Guys, this is a big-time player for them. He has a chance of starting as a true freshman. I don't think you're going to see Nebraska with only 11 players commit, with Mike Riley, doing a terrible job there. I think you're going to see them in the top 8 or 9 in the Big Ten when all is said and done. He's going to add 9 or 10 more players over the next 6 weeks, and it's going to start with Adrian Martinez. He's going to sign in a couple days here.
High hopes for that Frost program. Moving on, we have Northwestern coming in at number 12. 15 players have committed. 1 4-star for Northwestern. Great stuff for them.
Northwestern doing well coming in there, the Big 12. I like 4-star D end Devin O'Rourke, excuse me. I think that this will be, just kind of your normal Northwestern class. They have to do a lot of things in terms of recruiting in-house and then also developing a lot of lower-tier players to try to make them good. They have a great running back coming out this year that they're going to need to replace. Northwestern kind of there. I'm actually more surprised at the team we have at number 11. I thought they were going to end up being higher, but that's just Purdue for you. I thought that Purdue was going to be able to get a little bit higher with that new head coach, Jeff Brom. I thought they were going to be able to get up a little bit higher, but unfortunately, not so much.
All right, and look at that, you guys. No 5-star, no 4-star, and no players in the top 3 or 100. Next up, we have Indiana. They're coming in at number 10, and they all have zeros in that column as well, guys.
And that's Indiana for you. I mean, the football program there has just been a complete mess the last couple of years, and they're losing their best player in Simi Cooks Jr., the wide receiver most likely to the draft this year. So a lot of work to do for that Indiana program.
All right, we're going to keep powering through these. Now, up next, we have Rutgers coming in at number 9. So they do have a 4-star recruit and 1 recruit in the top 300. That's 4-star pro quarterback Artur Sitkowski.
I will never understand how Rutgers. I understand that it's Rutgers, like I get it, but at the same time, they're probably the biggest. They are the biggest college in one of the biggest high school football states in the country, and year in and year out, Rutgers is just bad. I mean, the only time that they've ever been good is when Greg Schiano was there, who's going to end up being one of the best recruiters we have in college. I don't understand it. Rutgers needs to figure their stuff out.
So Miami of Florida decommitted from them about 6 weeks ago. He is now going to Rutgers. He's from he's from the state of New Jersey, sticking around home. This is one of the better offensive recruits they've gotten, and maybe since Ray Rice about 15 years ago. So he's going to come in and make an immediate impact. And
he's a big dude, right? He's like 6'5".
6'5", 215, runs about a 5.040, so he's a true pocket passer.
Let's go.
He's gonna, top 250 player. Rutgers never gets those kind of guys.
All right, up next at number 8, we have the Hawkeyes. They have 15 players committed, 1 4-star recruit for them, guys, and that is the weak side defensive end, John Wagner.
Hey, you got to build from within. Iowa, same concept. They usually do a great job of taking in a lot of lower tier recruits and developing them very well into solid, all around, meat and potatoes kind of players like Iowa's pumped out the past couple of years. They'll be fine. I don't really see this class making an impact or taking too much away. It still is Iowa. I don't think they're going to wake up tomorrow and end up being one of the best recruiting schools in the country.
All right, at number 7, we have the Badgers. And guys, I was a little surprised to see Wisconsin so low in the Big Ten.
Well, they never recruit at the highest level. They're geographically limited by, have a ton of players. You're Oregon, they don't have the players there. You may be able to get 1 top 100 player in the country there every 5 years. But, a guy I want to talk about from Illinois, Jack Sanborn, super productive player in high school. Great job of reading defenses. He gets the football quickly. Does a great job of making his way through traffic, kind of shedding blockers, making tackles. Great, as they're watching this film, takes great angles to the ball carrier. So if you want to stop the run, he's your guy.
All right, coming in at number 6, we have the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 26 players committed to be a Gopher in 2018, guys. Pretty high.
This is the effect that PJ Fleck has on your program. I mean, whether or not they're going to be able to continue to get better in the record category, we'll see. But I think them actually having a decent recruiting class this year is credit to him. He's come in. I think he's actually a decent enough draw for the state of Minnesota, or for at least the College of Minnesota, to get some quality players.
Well, we got to talk about one guy here, Curtis Dunlap, right, from IMG. Listen to this guy's size, 6'4", 368. He is going to come in there and be the biggest player in the Big Ten next year. Getting him out of IMG is just a heck of a pull for them. Usually those guys are going to Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, right? To go up to Minnesota, big pull for them, and I think he's going to make an instant impact. Probably the biggest recruit they've had in Minnesota in a decade.
All right, for those of you just joining us, we are ranking all of the best teams in each Power 5 conference for the 2018 recruiting class, and we want you guys to pick the show, so let us know which class you want to talk about next. We have the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 to choose from. Up next, we have Michigan State. So they're coming in at number 5 in the Big Ten. They have 20 players committed, 0 5-star recruits, and 4 4-star recruits. What can you guys tell me about the Spartans?
Kaylon Gervin. Kaylon Gervin is going to end up being one of the better, probably the best recruit that they have coming into this class. And he's going to continue a very good system of corners coming out of the Michigan State program past couple years. Trey Wayne's the name one, currently playing for the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's going to add to an already really good defense for Michigan State. And I also think Xavier Henderson, their athlete who they're going to be able to use all over the offense and maybe even on the defensive side of the ball playing in the secondary, I think he's going to be a good fit for them as well.
Also, Jordan Lewis, Michigan now Cowboys player out of the same high school, Cass Tech. Great pull for them. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to keep powering through here in the Big Ten. Up next, we have Maryland. They're coming in at number 4, 21 players committed, 3 4-star recruits, and 2 in the top 300.
Look, the fact that Maryland is recruiting at a higher level than Michigan State, Wisconsin, and some others, Nebraska, is just true testament to them. They've done a phenomenal job under DJ Durkin. Now, they keep losing big-time commits left and right. They get 5-star guys to commit early. They get blow up in the scene. Ultimately, end up going to Ohio State or Alabama or something like that. But all these multiple top 300 players, multiple top, 4-star players. That's big time for them.
And also good on them for keeping Austin Fontaine in state. Guy goes to DeMatha Catholic High School, which is a rival high school of mine in McDonough. So good on them for keeping him there. Noah Boykin as well would be a really good fit in that defense.
All right, getting to the meat of the Big Ten here, we have the Michigan Wolverines coming in at number 3. And James, I know you have a little something to say about these Michigan Wolverines.
Well, so this is not Jim Harbaugh's best class by any means, right? And so he is actually had trouble with a couple things. 1, a down year in year 3, an 8-4 year. 2, they only had 12 scholarships to give to start the year. Now, they've had multiple transfers out. A couple guys leave or get kicked off the team. So it looks like they ultimately take about 18 players. But then you've got Shea Patterson, some of these other Ole Miss players that may come in, could drop that down. So Joe Milton is really the guy I think most Michigan fans are excited about because he's been described as like a Cam Newton who doesn't know how to throw the football yet, right? So huge.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, huge player. Can bomb the ball. They say he can throw the ball 75 yards from just, not even stepping up, just taking one step and throwing it. But he throws about a 45% clip in high school. So a lot of accuracy issues. They're going to put together a Milton package for him next year where he's going to take that Tim Tebow snap, direct snap, maybe take about 3 or 4 snaps a game. But he's the kind of the guy. He's going to stick with Michigan, which is phenomenal. Not going to be affected by Shea Patterson. And the one guy I want to talk about here, Otis Reese, been committed to Michigan for a long time, getting a lot of heat from Georgia and Alabama, so he could be one to look out for that might end up sticking in the SEC.
Definitely look for that moving forward. And Michigan does have 1 recruit in the top 100. Good for them. At number 2, we have the Penn State Nittany Lions. So they have 20 players committed in the class of 2018. 2 5-star recruits, 8 4-star recruits, 3 in the top 100, 10 in the top 300. Guys, this class is packed.
Well, the top guy is wide receiver Justin Shorter, one of the best maybe the best wide receiver in this entire class, coming from Monmouth Junction, New Jersey. And remember, I told you, New Jersey, there's that town again. Should have gone to Rutgers. His second school is actually Rutgers on his list, but I'll put it this way. He is a fantastic fit in this offense. If Trace McSorley decides to stay, which he should, I think this will give him a great option on the outside. 6'4", 213. I think they're going to be able to mold him into a great wide receiver just like they did with Allen Robinson a couple of years ago. Perfect fit for them. I think that's a great get for Penn State.
If they didn't lose Justin Fields, who's maybe the #1 player in the country according to some different rankings, to Georgia, then they could have the best class in the entire country. One guy out there, Micah Parsons, he's from the state of Pennsylvania, a top 5 player overall, defensive player. He's likely to commit to them next week. He does so. They've got 3 5-star players at that point, guys. This is a class for the ages for Penn State. Only missing piece is Justin Fields.
Good for James Franklin, by the way. Great for James Franklin getting in this kind of talent.
Penn State, they do have a great recruiting class, but I hate to say it, guys, I feel like they're a little overshadowed by the Buckeyes 2018 recruiting class. Oh my goodness is right. 21 players recruited so far, 3 5-star, 16, that is not a typo, 4-star recruits, 11 in the top 100, 18, almost 20 and 300 guys. This is dangerous.
And the guy I want to talk about is Teron Vincent, one of the best D-tackle prospects to come out of college in a very long time. The guy is quick off the line. He's powerful. He can play great in the run game and the pass game as well. I think he's going to end up being one of the best defensive players in college football over the next couple of years. We know that Ohio State for the past few seasons has been able to pump out defensive line talent like nobody's business. Jonathan Hankins, Sam Hubbard, Nick and Joey Bosa. I mean, it just continues to go on. Teron Vincent will be a part of that class. And I think it's also credit to Greg Schiano. We mentioned at the start of the show, or at least I did, how good of a recruiter he is. And Teron Vincent is that kind of guy that they can go out and get and bring into that defense. Greg Schiano is going to work wonders with this kid. Watch out. I think he's going to end up being better as a pass rusher than he is as a run stopper in college football, and that by itself is crazy. Think What's his name out of Houston? That's similar player as Ed Oliver out of Houston. Very similar player to Teron Vincent.
One player to note here, Emory Jones, their quarterback commit. It's been committed to them for 18 months, guys. They just took another quarterback commit just in the past week. Matt Baldwin out of Austin, Texas, a 3-star quarterback. I didn't they know Emory Jones is not going to be a part of this class. I think he's going to be looking at Alabama, potentially Auburn, and some others. He's from the state of Georgia. They're going to stick down south. Think about the quarterback talent in Georgia right now. They've got 3 players at quarterback in the top 40 players in the entire country. One going to Clemson, one going to Georgia and Justin Fields, and the other one Ohio State. Now, likely he's going to stick in the SEC, though.
All right, those were your Big Ten rankings by each team. Let's go ahead and get to the ACC now. I saw a lot of comments flowing in calling for that, so we will do that for you guys. At number 14, we have Pittsburgh. Not that hot of a class for them, so they do have 14 players committed, but all zeros in that left column over there, guys. Are there any 3-stars that you're excited about, or is this just kind of an class for them?
So Blake Zubovic, their 3-star offensive tackle, he's a guy who can play either tackle spot in college. I watched his film. He's explosive off the ball. This is the guy that I think they're most excited about, but he's not going to be an instant impact player. There's a reason he's a 3-star tackle and not a 4 or 5. Not many major college programs are recruiting him, but I think if anybody you're going to look at, he's the kind of guy who you want to kind of hang your hat on with this recruiting class. But with only 14 players in Atlanta, this is a bad class for them.
Yeah, not so hot. We're going to keep on powering through these lower teams here in the ACC. Up next, we have Duke. They're coming in at number 13. They do have one 4-star recruit, guys, and that is the strong side defensive end, Taj Rice. What can you tell me about him?
Well, I think that for the most part, this Duke defense is going to continue to grow. I think that them being able to keep their head coach and basically almost their entire coaching staff in-house is going to be really, really good for that program. Taj Rice is going to be a quality player for them. Gunnar Holmberg coming in for that school is also going to be really good.
I know that's one guy you're excited about, James.
I mean, I just love the name. If your name is Gunnar, you are a quarterback guarantee. It's like Jeeves and being a butler, right? So great pocket passer, great pickup for them. Only a 3-star guy. I think watching this film, though, he screams 4-star to me. He's going to be an impact player for them long term.
All right, up next we have Boston College. They do have one 4-star recruit, and that is a guard in Finn Durstein.
And guess what? They brought him in. They are so happy to bring in a guard of his caliber because guess what he gets to do for the next 2 years? Block for A.J. Dillon. And that is all they are going to be looking for. One of the best run blocking guards that they have in high school so far. He's going to be a great recruit for them.
All right, chugging along here at number 11, we have Wake Forest. All zeros once again in that left column. 21 players committed. Not much to say here. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to number 10, guys.
All right.
And this is a team I was honestly had to go back and double check to make sure we didn't have it wrong. Florida State coming in at number 10. Now, they do have just 9 players committed, a bunch of 4-star recruits, but we do expect this to change with the addition of Willie Taggart at head coach. They will be moving up most likely in the rankings. What can you guys tell me about who they have on this list?
I mean, the name that sticks out to you right there is Asante Samuel Jr., the son of Asante Samuel. And fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, he is exactly like his father. Dude is an absolute ball hawk in the secondary and also is not afraid to come up and make big plays in the run game. He's going to be a fantastic fit for that defense. I think he's actually going to end up being a great college player, maybe even a great pro if he continues to go on there. But the real question is, you know, this Florida State class obviously impacted by Jimbo Fisher leaving.
Right.
What will Willie Taggart be able to do in a very short amount of time to maybe salvage this class in somehow? Because 10th in the ACC for Florida State, coming off one of their worst seasons in recent memory, they got to do some fixing up.
I mean, we saw how good Willie Taggart recruited 1 year at Oregon. I think he's going to come in here, make a big impact. But Jimbo Fisher kind of had his eyes somewhere else. It doesn't seem like he's doing a very good job. They had their worst on season on the field with him in a long time this year, and then their worst recruiting class in decades coming up here at Florida State number 2. Taggart's got a lot of work to do in the next 6 weeks.
Do you guys think that those lower class facilities are hurting the Seminoles right now in rankings?
I think it had to be the coaching change. It has to be the fact that Jimbo Fisher, he wasn't involved in coaching rumors at the start of the year, but towards the end of the year, I mean, if you're a guy who's thinking about going to Florida State, why would you go to Florida State? Why not go to Miami, who'd just been on the national stage all year long, been doing great stuff? And there's a reason why Miami's one of the top teams we have in our ACC recruit rankings. So not a huge surprise, but man, they got to pick it up with Willie Taggart.
All right, at number 9 in the ACC, we have the Virginia Cavaliers. You guys, what can you tell me about them?
Well, hey, Virginia Cavaliers coming in with 3-star Duke quarterback Brennan Armstrong. He was a commit for the Minnesota Gophers. Kind of a sad loss for PJ Fleck in that clan, but Virginia is always going to be a decent enough tough out in the ACC. I think this recruiting class is kind of along what we usually see with Virginia.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, moving on. We have Georgia Tech at number 8. 17 players committed to go there. 1 4-star recruit and athlete, Jalen King.
I mean, Jalen King is a top 300, 350 player overall. He's coming in as an athlete, right? And so he can either play offense, defense. I think we'll ultimately see him at wide receiver from the film I've seen. Elusive with the ball in his hands. He's going to be a good player. Coming out of the state of Tennessee, going down to Georgia Tech, he likes his academics. That's what I can tell you, though. That's for sure. So good class out of them, but not much higher than 8.
All right, number 7, we have Syracuse. They do have 1 4-star recruit and center Tyrone Sampson Jr., but one guy that we're keeping an eye on over here is wide receiver Edward Hendricks. Great name.
As good as Edward Hendricks is, and I think he's going to make a decent impact, I'm actually kind of disappointed to see Syracuse so low. You would think that after a couple years of Dino Babers, who's a decent enough recruiter, that they would be a little bit higher and be able to gather a little bit much, but I think it kind of goes back to what James continues to bring up. Syracuse stuck you want to talk about tucked away all the way up there in the northern part of New York. It's just tough for them to recruit high-quality football players to get there. Dino Babers has a lot of work in front of him to get this program where he wants it to be.
Just a reminder, we are breaking down the best 2018 recruiting classes by conference, and we're letting you guys, the audience, pick the show. So who do you want up next? Give me a thumbs up for the Big 12. Show me some love for the SEC. We are continuing on in the ACC right now. We're going to bring it to number 6, and that is the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they have 16 players committed, 4 4-star recruits, which is fantastic, and 1 guy in the top 100, Harris.
And he's the great thing that you have to know about Jordan Adams, their 4-star wide receiver. Boy, is this guy fast, and boy, does this guy have great hands. I think he's going to be a really good wide receiver for them to build around on the offensive side of the ball. They have a lot of work to do. Remember, this is a North Carolina football program that is honestly usually better than not, and I think that they are going to need to grow everything a little bit more.
All right, let's move on to number 5. We have Louisville. They have 21 players committed. No 5-star recruits, guys, and I was kind of surprised to see that 0 in that column.
I mean, I'm not. If you're a recruit looking at Louisville and you're about to see that they're going to lose their best player by a considerable margin in Lamar Jackson, most likely to the draft, you're going to think twice about going to Louisville.
Yeah, and so Emmanuel Allen is the guy that I'm really excited about. He's from the state of California, coming to Louisville. That doesn't happen a lot. Was committed to Nebraska prior. Mike Riley kind of being in the hot seat. He decommitted them right before the season started in August. Flipped over to Louisville. He's solid with them, so he's going to be an instant impact guy, especially in that offense that they run.
All right, keep on throwing up your votes. We're going to move it to number 4 now, and that's NC State. Now, NC State does have one guy we're taking a look at. That's 4-star running back Ricky Pearson. Are you guys excited to see him play?
I think he's going to be a pretty good guy inside of the ACC. We've seen a lot of running backs be able to play a little bit above their pay grade inside of the ACC in terms of the running back position. I think he's going to make a great impact on the NC State team. We've seen that team, with their head coach, they've been able to actually make a decent enough impact in the ACC and are now actually going to probably be one of the top 5 teams in that conference going forward. I think he's going to be an excellent addition to that offense.
All right, at number 3, we have the Hokies. Now, they have 23 players committed to play in 2018, 4 4-star recruits, couple guys in the top 1 and 300. One guy I'm excited to look at is Trey Turner. Now, he looks fantastic.
They had one job going into this recruiting season. We have our quarterback. We have Josh Jackson. The guy's an absolute stud. Let's build around him on offense, and let's start to get him some weapons. Trey Turner is exactly the kind of guy that they need on offense to help take them to the next level. Give him a year. I think that his freshman year is going to be a little bit lower par, but I think by his second year, he's going to be a good wide receiver.
Quarterback Quincy Patterson from the state of Illinois coming down to Virginia Tech. Really blew up this summer. He went out to the opening in Oregon at Nike and kind of took it to the top quarterbacks in the country, saw his ranking really increase. He's a big pickup for them.
All right, these last 2 teams are going to be really fun to talk about. So at number 2, we have the Clemson Tigers, currently ranked number 1 in the nation just for playoff purposes, but also have a great recruiting class coming in 2018, 12 players committed, 2 5-star, 5 4-star. It's looking good for the Tigers.
And it begins with Trevor Lawrence. If you like pro-style quarterbacks, then Trevor Lawrence is your guy. If you like dual-threat quarterbacks, then Justin Fields is your guy. I personally like pro-style quarterbacks, and Trevor Lawrence might be one of the best high school quarterback recruits that we have seen in years. He has an incredible arm. He moves around the pocket like Aaron Rodgers. Watch some of his highlights here. The dude is absolutely spectacular. He has the arm. He's got the legs. And by the way, he also has the hair. The dude has some pretty fantastic locks going on as well.
He's got flow.
That is phenomenal hair. Another player, Xavier Thomas from IMG Academy. That's what they have 20 or so of the top 200 players in the country. That's what they do. They're the new football powerhouse to get guys from all over the country to come down there. Xavier Thomas Harris is a force on the defensive end.
Yeah.
They've got 4 draft picks there in Clemson right now. They lose any of them. They've got guys coming in left and right. Xavier Thomas is going to start there next year.
And also, mind you, this is now a Clemson defensive line who, where you're talking about the Ohio State defensive line with Greg Schiano. Clemson's might be just as good, if not better. They are starting to pump out some serious talent. They're losing Austin Bryant to the draft this year, along with Christian Wilkins as well, and Dexter Lawrence. I think Xavier Thomas is going to slide right in on that defensive line. Might be a day one starter for the Clemson Tigers. They're going to be just fine.
All right, guys, we're starting to wrap up the ACC, so keep on throwing in those votes. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs being thrown up, so I have a feeling we might hit the Big 12 yet, but if you want to see the SEC, keep on throwing up that heart. All right, at the top of the ACC, we have the Miami Hurricanes. Now, this is a loaded list, guys. 21 players committed, 1 5-star, but 14 4-star recruits, a bunch of guys in the top 100. This Hurricanes team is really trying to make themselves a force to be reckoned with.
And I think there are 3 factors at play here. A, the decent, I don't want to say downfall, but the lessening of the Florida football program in terms of switching coaches and the fact that the team hasn't been too good the past couple years. And then on top of that, the same thing with Florida State and the addition of Mark Richt. I mean, we got Al Blades Jr. coming in, the son of former Miami great Al Blades from those great Miami teams way back when. But I think the guy you got to look at is Lorenzo Lingard, a running back from Southern Florida who a lot of different people, they didn't really know where he was going to go in terms of which school in Florida. They knew he was going to stay in state. This dude is an absolute home run hitter. He's going to be an instant impact for that offense. To be totally honest, they need a lot of help on the offensive side of the ball. And I think he's going to be the perfect addition for them. Again, look at this. Miami, in a matter of a year or two, has gone from a lesser tier recruiting class to the #1 recruiting class in the ACC over Clemson. That's absolutely incredible coming from Mark Richt and that staff.
All right, guys, if you're just joining us, we are breaking down the best recruiting classes by conference. We're listing it off from 14 to 1, 12 to 1, what have you. So on the ACC at number 14, we have Pitt, followed by Duke, Boston College, Wake Forest, and Florida State. At number 9, we have Virginia, followed by Georgia Tech, Syracuse, North Carolina, and Louisville. And at number 4, we have NC State, Virginia Tech. Number 2 is Clemson, and number 1 is U. All right, guys, and in the Pac-12, which we recapped earlier, at number 12, we have Utah. 11 is Oregon State, Arizona State, Stanford, Arizona, and Colorado. At number 6, we have Washington State, followed by Cal, USC, UCLA. Number 2 is Washington, and followed by that is number 1, Oregon. In the Big Ten at number 14, we have Illinois, followed by Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana. At number 9 is Rutgers, followed by Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan State. And then coming in at number 4 is Maryland, followed by the Wolverines, Penn State, and Ohio State. And if you guys are just joining us, we are brought to you by Game Time. They are the #1 app on the App Store for all last-minute sporting tickets, concert tickets, you name it, they have it, and with killer deals, guys.
I've gone to more basketball games this year than I can even
Tell
think
me
about
it. I think we all have.
I can walk out of here, spend $9 in the Game Time app, sit in the lower bowl sometimes, and spend my money on more important things like having a couple, Coronas.
So go download the Game Time app today at www.chatsports.com/tickets. All right, guys, so we are going to bring it now to the Big 12. That's what you guys said you wanted to see, so we're going to give you what you want. And in the Big 12, at number 10, we have Kansas, guys.
Yeah, and Kansas, I mean, this has just been probably, you can make an argument this has been maybe the worst football program in the country.
It hasn't been good.
Hey, look at them. They do have a 4-star recruit. They got Corian Harris. Hey, look, you're doing good for the namesake, though I don't really know how good you can do going to Kansas, but it's Kansas, man. They should just be happy to have 1 4-star recruit. I'm actually pretty stunned that they got one.
Well, I mean, Corian Harris is a heck of a player, and they got off to a really interesting start, Kansas. They got a few players, a couple 5-star guys out of the state of Louisiana, both ultimately decommitted. It was very strange, but ultimately they're going to be at the bottom of the Big 12 almost every year.
Maybe they thought they were playing basketball.
That's what I think, too. That's what I thought they read about, actually.
All right, followed by Kansas is Kansas State. Now, they're ranked number 9. 12 players committed, but a bunch of zeros filling out that left column. One guy to watch is safety Wayne Jones, but not a lot to say for these Wildcats.
I like John Holcomb. He's a 3-star dual threat quarterback. A lot of people have slept on him. He didn't get the offers from the Texas A&M, but he's got a lot of talent. Continues to be stronger and stronger at the quarterback position. Made the move from the defensive side of the ball when his high school career began. So he's only got a couple years playing quarterback. I think that's why he was overlooked by some of the bigger schools.
Watch out for Wayne Jones, though. This dude packs an absolute hammer at the strong safety position. if you want kind of a contour him, think of a little, I don't want to say Cam Chancellor, think of a Darian Thompson, guy who went to Boise State a couple years ago. Guy can just hit. He hits. He can play the linebacker, kind of that dual hybrid position between safety and linebacker that has become so popular in college and in the NFL. So I think he'd be a good spot for, I think he's going to be a good player in the back end of that Kansas State defense.
All right, we're going to keep powering through these bottom teams in the Big 12. Coming in at number 8, we have the Cyclones. They have 18 players committed, but once again, guys, a bunch of zeros in that left column.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm sorry, I've never really gotten on the Matt Campbell train. I understand that they had 2 big wins this year, but and again, I know it's not the easiest to recruit to Iowa State. I totally understand, but you know, the guy is supposed to be one of the top head coaching recruits or top head coaching candidates in the country to move along, and you know, the recruiting isn't great. Their overall record didn't end up being great. They won 2 good games, but after that, they didn't really do anything all year. And I'm not high on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great class to them. You thought they have a little more momentum. I do think sometimes what you said, Harris, that the uncertainty, the coaching position can, you know, make it tough.
That's fair.
They don't want to commit. They're committing to a coach, not a program when it comes to Iowa State and a hot coach like him. He did recommit, so they've got 6 weeks to the second, you know, the regular signing day period to make up a little ground. But right now, they're kind of a disappointing class.
All right, coming in at number 7, we have the Red Raiders. Now, they do have 2 4-star recruits, and that's Eric Akuzanma, excuse me if I totally butchered that, and then 4-star wide receiver Gabriel Douglas.
And, you know, at this point, we saw throughout most of the year that Cliff Kingsbury was on the hot seat. You know, he did win a couple of games down the stretch to get them back into a bowl game to really kind of maybe strengthen his seat. I'm not really sure, but I think his seat is still hot. And I don't think this recruiting class is going to do a lot to help him out. I think only 2 4-star recruits. Not saying that Texas Tech usually pulls these crazy recruits, but man, Cliff Kingsbury at this point is coaching for his job. So I'm not inspired by this recruiting class for him.
Yep.
All right, at number 6, we do have the Baylor Bears. Now, guys, they have 2 4-star recruits, 1 guy in the top 300. Do you think Baylor's going to be able to start climbing back into the top ranks of the Big 12, or are they this bottom feeders at this point?
I'll put it this way. This is really when we kind of can start judging Matt Rule, the new coach that they got from Temple a couple years ago. I understand this will end up being, I think, his 2nd recruiting class, but you know, with all the crazy scholarship restrictions that they've gone under, as well as the bowl ban, it's going to be really difficult for Baylor to do just about anything in the recruiting territory to get onto the top end of the Big 12. Even them being at number 6 is an accomplishment for Matt Rule. It is going to be a slow rebuild for the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's going to be very tough for them to have any chance to compete at all for a while. They've been so – it's not just any restrictions or anything like that. It's just the perception. Do you want to send your kids there if you're a parent?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, number 5, we have the Cowboys, and they have 22 total players committed, a couple 4-star recruits. Harris, I see you kind of moving around to my right. Who are you excited to talk about?
CJ Moore. This dude is an absolute stud. He showed up in a big way. If you're looking at what he's been able to do in a couple camps this year and as well in high school in his senior year, he's been spectacular, and he's going to be matched up with dual quarterback Spencer Sanders, excuse me. I think they're going to end up being a great combo. I'm pumped. I actually think that they're going to end up being able to make a little bit more of an impact on the offensive side of the ball. They're losing Mason Rudolph. They're going to lose James Washington as well. I think it's time for them to maybe start looking ahead of the future of that offense and what they're going to be able to do in the next couple of years. I think Spencer Sanders is going to be a good option for them at QB going forward.
You know, the guy's a stud. He's been playing high-level ball in Texas as a starting quarterback since he was a true freshman. He's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see him in that high-flying Oklahoma State offense.
Yeah, dude loves throwing deep bombs down the field. He's going to be a good fit with CJ Moore, who's a great deep ball catcher on the other side.
All right, coming in at number 4, we have the Mountaineers, and a little bit of information coming out of West Virginia has been announced that Will Grier, their quarterback, has announced that he will stay for his senior season.
I'm sure that Dana Holgerson is literally doing the Irish jig right now. That is huge for this West Virginia team. I think them bringing in 2 people on the defensive side of the ball is really good for them as well in terms of 4-star DN Dante Stills and also safety Quante Rains. I think that this West Virginia program is trending in a very good direction. It will be interesting, though, what happens with David Stills either this year or next year if he decides to stay or come out. I like this one. I like what Dana Holgerson is doing at West Virginia. I've always really liked their program.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of West Virginia the last few years. I really think they underachieve as a program. I do think they're a top 15 program. They have the ability. They have the recruiting, footprint. They should be better. They always seem to get out to a hot start, end up being going 7-5, 8-4.
Right.
All right, at number 3, we have the TCU Horned Frogs. They got 20 total players committed. No 5 stars, but a decent amount of 4-star recruits. One guy that a lot of people are excited about, our dual threat quarterback, Justin Rogers.
Yeah, I know, James, you've been pretty excited about this guy.
Yeah, I love Justin Rogers. Out of the state of Louisiana, so TCU's widening that net a little bit, getting out of the Dallas area where they're from. And Justin Rogers is a guy who's going to come in and be able to play that high-flying, dual threat style offense that they run. He's got a great arm. He has strength and velocity on his passes with a dangerous rushing ability. And I think where his biggest strength is when the play breaks down and he's scrambling. He is a great scrambler, can make the throws, keeps his head up going downfield.
I love what Gary Patterson's been able to do with this program. This is just incredible. I understand that TCU over the past about decade or so has been considerable, but think about where they were before that. They are now the number 3 recruiting class in the Big 12 again going into 2018. They've been consistently one of the better programs in the country, and guess what? Gary Patterson shows A, no signs of slowing down, or B, has shown no signs of even wanting to leave. I think TCU is here to stay. It's great to see kind of a lesser-named program get into the upper echelons of college football.
TCU making a name for themselves in the Big 12 at number 2 in this recruiting rankings isn't really a big surprise here. We have the Sooners, and they have 20 players committed. No 5-star recruits, which I was, a little shocked to see, but they do have plenty of 4-star recruits, headlined by offensive tackle Bray Walker and all-purpose back TJ Pledger.
And Bray Walker could not be coming in at a better time. They're about to lose their All-American, one of the best tackles in the country in Orlando Brown at Oklahoma. He's leaving, and they needed a guy to come in and replace him. Here comes Bray Walker. I think that he's going to struggle his freshman year. I think that his speed off the line is going to be an issue. He's kind of one of the guys, he's just so big, he doesn't really know how to fully use his body yet in terms of speed and agility.
Big boy.
But man, is he big. This dude is an absolute road grader. I think he's going to be a really fun fit in the Big 12. But I'll say this. Give him a little bit of time to get going. He is massive, and he's only going to be 18 when he starts next year. It's going to take him a little time to grow into his body.
All right, at number 1, we have the Longhorns, and this is a packed 2018 class for Texas. 1 5-star recruit, 16 4-star recruits, a bunch of players in the top 300. Now, I know B.J. Foster is a huge name for the Longhorns. James, what can you tell me about him?
I mean, I love this class in general, guys. This is the number 2 ranked class in the entire country,
Yes,
only behind Ohio State, ahead of Alabama, ahead of Georgia, ahead of all these teams having much more success on the field. And B.J. Foster is a beast, guys. He can play on both sides of the football. He's going to end up playing safety in college, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him as a guy who gets snaps on both sides of the ball, because as an offensive player, he gets the ball in his hands, he gashes defense as a running back, he takes it to the house pretty much anytime he wants in high school. I think you're going to see him on both sides of the ball. He might be the best player that Texas has brought in 3 or 4 years, certainly, maybe even going back to Mac Brown 6 seasons ago, and it's the player they needed at Texas under Tom Herman to kind of really stamp their mark on the state again, say, hey, we own the state of Texas. 16 top 300 players, guys. That's out of control. That's amazing.
One thing that really stands out to me, all these players to watch with our top ranked recruits in this class, all defense.
It is all defense, and I think in the Big 12, we've talked about the past couple of years, it's kind of been a pillow fight conference. Everyone's just throwing 50-point games at each other, 40, like all these crazy games. No one plays defense. I think Tom Herman in Texas has kind of come to the conclusion of, okay, if our offense is good and our defense is literally anything close to decent, kind of like Oklahoma's. Well, Oklahoma didn't have a great defense, but it was good enough. Texas, if their defense is good enough, they're going to rule the Big 12.
Yeah, they've got 4-star wide receivers in Alphonte Woodard. They've got Brandon Eagles, 6'4". They've got DeMarvion Overshawn, one of the great names in high school football from our Texas, 6'4", 200-pound safety. He might see on both sides of the ball as well. This class is stacked from top to bottom. If you look at it, guys, it is all Texas guys and a couple Florida, a couple California sprinkled in there. They've also hit IMG Academy to get a recruit as well.
I'm keeping my eyes out for the Longhorns in 2018. Let's go ahead and recap the Big 12 rankings. At number 10, we have the Jayhawks, followed by Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Baylor, rounding out the bottom 5. At number 5, we have Oklahoma State, followed by West Virginia, TCU, Oklahoma, and Texas. All right, guys, if you're just joining us, we are breaking down the top recruiting classes in each conference by each team. We're breaking it down from 14 to 1. Now, we've already been over the Big 10, the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC, but if you missed it, don't worry. We're going to loop it all back around at the top of the hour. But we do have one more conference for you guys, and that is the SEC. So we'll take it to number 14 now, and that is the Ole Miss Rebels.
I mean, what are you going to do if you're Ole Miss right now? You can't go to a bowl game right now, so you can't even have guys say, hey, we're about to be in the Orange Bowl or something like that. Can't go to a bowl game this year. Suspended next year, and then all you read in the headlines right now is that all your best players are trying to go to different schools right now. They're going to go to Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State, or somewhere else, and so it's going to be a really tough sled. Much like Baylor and some other schools that have gotten on probation, I think Ole Miss is in for a rough next 5 years. And really, guys, just think about this. It puts so much emphasis how good Penn State has done with all the sanctions and bad, the 2-year bowl ban and all those players who could leave for them. When Penn State went through this in 2011, how they stuck around and really never had a big dip. And you're seeing Ole Miss and Baylor going through it. Ole Miss having a really tough time the next 5 years.
All right, we're going to keep powering through. At number 13, we have the Razorbacks. They have 11 players committed to play for them in 2018 and 2 4-star recruits.
Well, Bumper Pool is the man. I am a big name guy when it comes to college football recruiting. If I'm thinking between 1 or 2 or 3 guys, and one's got a name like Bumper Pool, he's getting the scholarship offer from me. But had offers from all kinds of big schools, chose Arkansas, stuck with him through the coaching change, and he's going to be an instant impact player for them. I love this guy.
All right, speaking of coaching change, up next in the SEC ranks, we have the Tennessee Vols. 11 players committed to play for them, 4 4-star recruits, but a little low for Tennessee and what they're usually used to seeing.
They are going to have to replace, almost half their class in less than 2 months. They've had so many decommitments in the past, 6-8 weeks. A lot of guys going to other SEC schools. Other guys going out there say, hey, I'm going to go to Nebraska. I'm going to go out west, and that's pretty rare for Tennessee. They're going to hang their hat on 4-star wide receiver Alontae Taylor. He just recommitted to Tennessee after kind of wavering for a while. He's the first true commit under Jeremy Pruitt.
And I think that Greg Emerson, another 4-star D tackle that they're going to bring in, I think they're going to do a lot of great work with him. We saw what Pruitt was able to do as the defensive coordinator at Alabama, being able to help turn out a lot of great defensive linemen there, Deshaun Hand, Jonathan Allen, to name a couple. I think that Greg Emerson is going to be a solid player for them on the defensive line. They really got to get going for on the defensive side of the ball to compete in the SEC.
All right, at number 11, we have Missouri. They have a bunch of zeros in that left column, so guys, we're just going to keep powering through. Not much to say about them. Yes, sad. At number 10, we have Vandy. Vandy does have 3 players in the top 300, 16 players who are committed, 1 4-star wide receiver. Good for them.
Surprisingly good class, but nothing to think they're going to win championships with.
Nothing to write home about at all. At number 9, we have Kentucky. 19 players committed, 4 3-star recruits. This is a good class for the Wildcats.
Man, it's hard to recruit in the SEC. Kentucky just came off one of the best years that I think they've had in, 2 decades, and all they can get is 3 4-star recruits. That's pretty tough.
One thing for Kentucky in the last few years, they have really made an impact in that lower Ohio region, kind of south of Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, where Tom Downey's from, that area. They are making an impact outside the state of Kentucky, and that's why you're seeing them get 3 top 300 recruits, which is rare for them.
All right, at number 8, we have Mississippi State. They do have 3 4-star recruits, a couple guys in the top 300. Who are you excited to watch for the Bulldogs?
Well, I'm excited to watch Malik Heath, the wide receiver, 4-star wide receiver they have in, also coming in Stephen Guidry. I think that for the most part, this Mississippi State team, even though they're losing their head coach in Dan Mullen, this is still a solid recruiting class going on top of what is already Mississippi State has been able to create a very well-rounded program. It's not going to be over-the-top great, but it's not going to be terrible. They're always going to be competing, and they're always going to be a tough out. I think that this continues on that tradition.
Yeah, it's surprising that they've stuck out with kept all these players with the coaching change.
Yep.
All right, getting to the top half of the SEC, we have the Florida Gators. Got a bunch of 4-star recruits, guys, with a big 0 on that 5-star column.
It's challenging for them to get and to hold on to commitments with them making a mid-season coaching change.
Yep.
It's really throws the entire recruiting process into into turmoil. One guy to watch out for, it's Matt Corral from the state. He's a Southern California guy. He's a pro-style passer. Came in under Jim McElwain and really recruited him hard. Is he going to stick around? I think the Wolves are kind of nipping at him right now, thinking that he is open to look at other schools. Every team in the Big 12, every team in the Pac-12 that needs a quarterback is going after Matt Corral right now. Is he going to stick with this new coaching regime?
We will see. And then at number 6, we have the Gamecocks. 20 players committed to play for them in 2018. Once again, there's a couple 4-star recruits sprinkled in there. Wide receiver Josh Fan.
A little
maybe
disappointed.
a highlight?
I don't know about you, James. I'm a little disappointed. You think that in year 2 now, Will Muschamp, they'd be able to get a little bit better of a pull there? A little disappointed.
I think it's year 3, but DeCarrion Joyner, this guy is the player that they need to get. He's from the state of South Carolina. He got recruited by everybody in the Southeast. ACC, SEC wanted him. Stuck with South Carolina. You know why he said he stuck with South Carolina?
Why?
Staying home. They showed me the most love. They wanted me the most.
Good.
They tried the
I like
hardest.
that.
That means a lot for recruits, and we've seen that
Muschamp.
definitely happen throughout the classes. Number 5, we have Texas A&M. Now they have 8 4-star recruits, a couple guys sprinkled in the top 300. I know one guy you guys are excited to talk about is wide receiver Jalen Preston.
I am, and I'm also really surprised to see Texas A&M this high. They just lost their head coach, and I think for the most part, them being able to stay number 5 in the SEC, it's actually pretty impressive for a school like Texas A&M. They're ahead of a school like Florida, who, getting a coach like Dan Mullen is actually a pretty nice pull for any recruiting stuff. But losing their head coach, I'm surprised to see them number 5. Good for Texas A&M. Hopefully they can keep some of these guys and they don't flip going forward.
All right, moving on to number 4, we have LSU, and they're in the top 4 in the SEC, but still no 5-star recruits for the Tigers.
And I think that has to do a little bit with, it might have to be an indictment on Ed Orgeron. We've talked a lot about, is Ed Orgeron the right choice?
Ed Orgeron is a great recruiter.
He is, but
outside of Nick Saban, he's the best recruiter in the entire SEC. I mean, yeah, you expect
4th?
LSU has typically gotten guys down the stretch, so I think they're going to make a splash next week on signing day. They're going to pop up here, and there's going to be plenty of players in the 6 weeks between early signing day and regular signing day that they're going to get. You're going to see them pop up, but they're still going to be in the top 10 or 12 in the entire country. I think the SEC, if you're 4th in the SEC, sometimes you can be 6 or 7 in the entire country.
Fair. That's fair. That's
it's fine. Jarrell Cherry is the guy I like out of this class. Athletic, power edge rusher, and we know that Coach O is really just a defensive line coach.
And I think that he's going to sit very well next to David Kahn, who we showed you a couple highlights of there. I think those two guys on the same side of the line is going to be just fearsome in the SEC.
All right, number 3, we have Alabama, guys.
Well, they don't even normally get ranked number 3 in the entire country.
Right.
So, number 3 in the SEC, interesting. So they took a little bit different approach this year. Lost both their coordinators in the last couple of years. Lost another coordinator, is now going to Tennessee as the coach. So it's basically Nick Saban and a bunch of guys he met, 2 hours ago, recruiting for him right now in this program. So they are in on 20 of the top 50 guys left. The top 50 uncommitted players in the country now. About 20 of them are considering Alabama in the top 2 or 3. I think they're going to get 8 or 9 of those guys. So they're going to finish with a fury. You're going to see 22, 23 players end up in this class, and they're going to end up ranked in the top 3 or 4 in the country right now. They're sitting there somewhere in the backside of the top 10. And so will they get in the top 3 in the SEC? It's tough to say. They'll probably surpass our number 2 team coming up, but it won't be a number 1 or number 2 class. They've had basically 8 straight years number 1 or number 2 class, depending on who ranks, which rankings you follow.
And just a reminder, them having 0 5-star recruits is kind of tricky. Ayabi Anoma, who comes from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland, at this point he's almost completely 100% certain to go to Alabama. We'll know, obviously, when all the signings do come in, but they will end up with at least 1, if not 2 5-star recruits, so it's a little shaky.
2 or 3.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move to number 2 here, and those are the Auburn Tigers. No 5-star recruits, but so many 4-star recruits, guys. A couple athletes, a couple wide receivers. This is a great class.
Listen, Joey Gatewood is the guy we want to talk about. 6'4", 232. They list him as an athlete. They list him as an athlete because what's he, a defensive end? Is he a linebacker? No, this is going to be their new quarterback. He is coming in to play quarterback.
Like Cam Newton
Joey
size.
Gatewood is the man. He is lightning quick for his size. He is going to be amazing there at Auburn. I think he's the star of the class.
And I think he's also going to match up really well with Matthew Hill, the wide receiver that they have bringing in as well. Their offense is always really built around a lot of solid, not over-the-top, incredible talent players. I think this kind of goes along with that. This is going to be a fun offense going forward. Good for the Auburn program.
All right, and the number 1 recruiting class
the
SEC are the Georgia Bulldogs. 10 top 300 recruits, 5 in the top 100. Plenty of 5 and 4-star recruits. And this dual quarterback, Justin Fields, guys, is the dude. Justin
Fields is an absolute freak, and we'll get to him in a second. The guy I want to talk about first is Zamir White, the running back. Number 1 running back in the country. This dude is an absolute freak of nature. I really do think that Zamir White is going to end up being just an absolute star in the SEC. He's an absolute freak on the offensive side of the ball. And then you match him up as well with Justin Fields. Oh my goodness, that's just not even fair.
Doing a lot of absolutes there, Harris.
It's not even fair.
I mean, they're going to be such a dynamic duo out of that backfield. It's going to be amazing to see. Now, the thing that's interesting about Fields is he's still committing. He decommitted from Penn State. Why he committed from Georgia to Penn State, I never was understanding, but he's sticking with him. They have got Jake Fromm and in front of him Jacob Eason, 2 top 25, 30 quarterbacks in the country the last 2 recruiting classes, and he's going in there. He's not going to a place where he's really a true chance to start as a true freshman. So surprising he stuck with him, but he is going to be dynamite in this this offense.
I will say this, I really do think that Zamir White, might just come in and start week 1. I also think that he should just come in and start week 1. The dude is an absolute monster.
With the talent they have in the Georgia backfield, I don't think there's any chance he'll start from week 1, but he's going to get plenty of carries. You'll probably end up seeing him with about 150 carries as a true freshman.
Oh, so excited. He's so good.
Definitely a fantastic class for the Georgia Bulldogs. All right, guys, that is just about all the time we have for you. We will quickly recap the SEC and what we had. So at number 14 is Ole Miss, 13 is Arkansas, 12 Tennessee, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. At number 9, we have the Kentucky Wildcats, followed by Mississippi State, Florida, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. Up next, we have LSU, followed by Bama, Auburn, and Georgia. All right, guys, if you missed anything, like we said, don't worry, we're about to loop it all back. And one more friendly reminder, we are brought to you by Game Time, the #1 app on the App Store for last-minute concert tickets, sporting tickets. It doesn't get much better than their app. 5-star reviews all across the board, guys. A must download, so go download today at www.chatsports.com/tickets. I am Lena Bond. These are my college football insiders, Harris Rubenstein and James Yoder. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.